This conference is fantastic. I think the people here are getting a lot out of it. My name is Mihailovski. I work at Google. I love the slogan, data beats opinion. I definitely think that, there's many people in the world who have a lot of different opinions, and it's nothing better than to show them the data and the facts so they can make a right opinion about what's going on. So I recommend everybody to keep on using data and make better decisions.
There has been a change, so people do see the value in data and they're starting to understand that you have to have data to make decisions. My name is Emer. I work for Yahoo Web Analytics. I'm the product manager. I've been with Yahoo for 4 years now, since the acquisition of Index Tools in 2008.
There's a change in how marketing is seen in the big companies, that it's going from something that was interesting to something that's a core part of the strategy. They know that they need data to make the right decision. As you say, data beats opinion. I'm Kristoffer Ewald. I am a web analyst originally. I have a background in statistics and economics.
Companies doing last year, there was a lot of focus on let's get good data.
If you have wrong data, then you can only make wrong decisions.
Now here's a quick definition of web analytics. Okay? The measurement, collection, analysis, and reporting of internet data for the purposes of understanding and optimizing web usage. Great. Questions? Now here's mine. Web analytics is when you tell your clients how to fix their crappy and costly website, save the world, and get warm and fuzzy inside. Now, what that means is, and you'll see afterwards, is it's never a very positive picture. You'll see that web analytics is not a destination; it's a journey. Okay, so it never ends. It never stops. Okay, there's always stuff to optimize.
My name is Julien Coquet. I'm a consultant with a firm called Hub Sales out of Paris that specializes in analytics consulting and video broadcast on the web TV.
My name is Whitmore, and I'm from Analytics Pros, a Google Analytics certified consultancy that I founded about 3 years ago. We're based in the United States. Our headquarters are in the town of Bend, Oregon. Very exciting to see, other side of the world from where I live. The internet is the same, the challenges are the same, the needs are the same, and analytics, the data, is the same. Data still beats opinion.
Data beats opinion.
Is that I feel like there's two different worlds of web analytics. There's big companies, right, and mid-sized companies that can invest money and resources into using these tools. And then you have the small businesses.
One, get involved in analytics. The probably next 5 to 10 years, There are way more jobs in web analytics than there are people to fill them. To get started, there's a lot of free resources online that you can start using. There's Google has a library of videos, about 5 hours of videos you can watch for free under the education link on the Google Analytics website. There's blogs, there's books. I wrote a book, in fact I had a copy here of Performance Marketing with Google Analytics that wrote a few years ago. And Justin Cutroni's written several books. Brian Clifton in the UK has written a great book. Avinash Kaushik's book. So a lot of really good resources.
My name's Justin Cutroni, and I'm the analytics advocate for Google. I'm actually new to Google. I've been working at Google for about 2 weeks now. I'm advocating analytics. So within the analytics team, I help them understand how people use the product, what people are trying to do in our industry, and where there's problems. Right? So if there's a report that's not working or a piece of data that's missing, I try to communicate that back to our team so they can make the product more useful to more people. I also work with our educational teams to help them develop content that's really useful for businesses. Before I joined Google, I've been working in the analytics field for many years. I used to work with Urchin when it was still Urchin before the acquisition by Google, and I started doing tech support for Urchin as a partner. To be honest, I don't believe a lot of small businesses should do web analytics. What I believe is that our industry should make the data more approachable as marketing data. Right? And so that they can, because their true value will be to extract benefit from what they're doing from a marketing perspective. Whereas large enterprise organizations that Nick has consulted with and Caleb works with quite often, they have very different types of needs, right? They need more raw data, they need to do modeling, they need to distribute data and reports. So I think for small businesses, what they should focus on is marketing-based data to help support how they spend their money. And I think what we really need to invest in is creating a tool that does a lot of the work for them, right? Tell me what kind of business you are, here are the things you should look at. Here's some automated analysis. I love the intelligence feature in Google Analytics that does automated analysis. And I feel there's a huge opportunity to take that feature and really make it useful for those businesses so that they don't have to spend the time and they can just get more alerts of you should pay attention to this, this, and this, or you should try these new things. So I think that's a trend that's going to happen over the next year, 18 months, even up to 2 years, because it's a complicated problem.
And the good thing about Google Analytics is that everyone is asking themselves where is it going to go. I mean, they just announced a professional version, a premium version. It costs a lot, but it does so much more. But at the same time, this is going to force other vendors to innovate and provide more value for their money.
And I think what we need to do is the enterprises, we have the Google Analytics Premium product, right? We need to help them understand that this is a product that will fit their needs, and we need to create a product that will support the way that they do analytics, because they have lots of users, they have to do very boring things like reporting. We need to make that easy, but we also need to make the tool robust from an analysis perspective. So we need to focus on really supporting the business process of analytics for big companies.
Agencies need to step up.
I think another really big problem for the larger organizations are all the agencies. Because, right, so agencies, they spend all the money, right? So they get the money and then they go off and they do the media spending. And they supply some data back about their performance and they prove to them, their clients, how good they are, right? But they're only providing data about what they're doing. They're not providing the entire environment of data. And really, the organization needs to work with whatever agencies they have, which can be quite a lot, right? If they're a large international company, they might have multiple agencies or at least multiple relationships to help them understand you're doing these things. We need to centralize the data among all of these activities. And the agencies should be telling them, hey, we're giving you as much data as we can, but you might need to collect more data using your analytics tool or whatnot. So I think from an educational perspective, the agencies need to step up. I think the people exist at the organizations, but they just need to be put together and centralized.
I think as you get into larger organizations where money is flowing all around, it's easy to lose track of what value you're providing the company, and that's where opinion starts to come in more and more, because people can get away with opinion because they don't have to rely on data. Because somebody else who's relying on data for revenue, for income, is actually using the information and fueling the money that's being spent for the opinion.
If it wants to, really, really build and grow, and if you want to understand what you're doing in that space, you have to have analytics. And I think, without the data, you're guessing. So more and more people need to get into it.
Top-down process.
Analytics is a top-down process. It's not a bottoms-up process. Okay, you have to, management takes decision. You can be at a lower level and still find something interesting in terms of optimization. Bring it up, have it optimized, but ultimately, top-down process. If you give access to, say, Google Analytics or Yahoo Analytics, Omnichannel, Web Trends, anything really, to someone with no training or no idea what they're looking for, they can keep clicking and scrolling and viewing 300 reports in 1 hour, but they still won't be able to make one decision at the end of the hour. Okay, so training is key. And it's not just about using the interface, it's about being able to interpret what's in the interface and what does it mean to you. You got 300 visits? Great, what does it mean?
Data in and of itself doesn't help you. It's analysis of the data. And so that's the trend that I think we're going to see a lot more of this year across the board for companies that have invested in getting good data and implementation. Now they're ready to use it. So the companies that are going to do better, that will thrive and grow, are the companies that are going to analyze the data. And I think there's just a lot of organizations that are ready to do that now. They see the value of spending some money, either hiring a consultancy.
Most companies start out wanting it to be a one-time deal or short-term. And they find out that it shouldn't be. It is an ongoing thing. And so the successful companies are ones that invest continually in optimizing and improving their business. If you think that you can make your business better with a one-time fix, you won't stay in business very long, because business is constantly changing. Technology is changing. The competitive landscape is changing. You can't do SEO one time and then be done. Search engines evolve and change. New content comes online. You can't optimize your business one time because your customer changes, your business grows, your competition changes. So to be successful, you have to do ongoing.
Doing well.
For the whole lifetime of a business, as long as a business wants to be successful, they need data to prove that they're successful. And the data, might be as simply that I have $1 today, or I have more money tomorrow and more money the next day. I mean, that's data. And then again, it gets more sophisticated over time. But if you don't have data, then you can't measure if you're doing well or bad. Traditionally, we've always looked at web analytics as just being websites. And in 2012, we're seeing a lot of growth in mobile. So I see a lot of web transforming to be more like internet tracking, so we can look at how people are using mobile applications. Also, social is a big thing, and the conversation is not just on your website, but it's off your website. So we're looking at how we can better understand and measure how people are having conversations off our websites. And I think that's going to be an increasingly important trend.
Finding your audience.
From a web analytics perspective, we're not web analytics, right? The website is no longer the focal point of your business identity on the internet. It could be Facebook, it could be Twitter. If Google has its way, it will be Google+, and who knows what's next, right? There are hundreds of social networks, some of them catering to very specific markets. And so I think as a CEO, what you need to consider is, where is your audience, right? Where are your customers or your prospective customers? And how do you connect with them?
For example, you might try using Facebook and realize that it actually has a larger effect than your website it has on its own. And in that case, you want to invest more in there. Other cases, it might be completely opposite, and the audience might not resonate with what you're talking about, and your website might still be the focal point of discussion. In either of those cases, it's important to measure, so that way you know how to best leverage and move your money around, so you know where to spend your time and effort to actually find that audience. So I think web analytics, or in a broader sense, analytics and data in general, is even more important now, because there's so many different places to have these discussions. It's not clear where you should be investing your time. And I would say social is one side, and now we're seeing mobile and applications is a whole other side. It's very difficult to understand where you should be investing in. Android, the iPad, the iPhone, and Facebook, and Twitter. There's too many things. So having the data is critical to being successful.
Metrics might shift.
When you're off in social, you're talking about more about awareness and brand attitudes. So I think we're going to have to look at different metrics, and different metrics will be more important as we look at how people are communicating about our products and services. So I think the main core metrics might shift as we're looking to measure social media.
Social obviously is a big one, getting that data in. I'm not sure yet where the value is in that, but people want to track it, so we need to track it. And I think gathering that data together is going to be, the biggest challenge for all of the analytics vendors like us, and for online marketers who are using the data. And it's something that we need to step up to. And I think we're definitely moving away from traditional web analytics, where we're looking at the behavior on a website and moving towards digital analytics.
Merging data.
And I also feel like for everybody, big and small, we're going to start to talk more about the business, lifetime value, truly understanding the valuable customers that we're identifying and optimizing for that. So that has a lot of different implications, like data integration, different types of reporting. But again, it's taking web analytics and making it even more business focused, which is what we ultimately want to do.
We need to change how we talk about analytics. From impressions and visits, we need to talk about share of voice in the market, affinity. Does a certain channel have more or less of the target audience that you're searching for, and also sort of the net ability to build audience. So there's a huge difference between talking to the same 100 people many times or talking to 1,000 people a few times.
We also have a unique data set coming from Yahoo, which is age and gender. We can report on interest categories like entertainment or news. So if a visitor to a website has logged into Yahoo that day, and they have gone to one of the Yahoo properties like Flickr, Yahoo Mail, one of the content sites like news, finance and so on, we can add that into the reporting. So we have a pretty special data set where we can, we turn the numbers into people, so we can see who really are the visitors coming to a website. For 2012, I think one of the biggest challenges, continuing on from 2011, is the increase in the kinds of data channels that we have to track.
So what I want to achieve is to be able to connect sort of the data sets from the online on the what we call the owned media, the website of the company, where they have typically the e-business. Connect that data with the marketing data from all the marketing channels and start to understand how each channel help them get extra audience, more audience, so reach, and also how they help each other, the channels, interact to drive brand interest and eventually sales. Definitely think out of the box and think about that you want to pull in marketing data, you want to pull in data from your physical store or from your loyalty program or from your sales system, and then hack the data. It's there, it can be done, and just go for it. On the top, we need to work with marketing data. In between, we need to work with data that drives brand loyalty. And in the long run, we need to work with loyalty data and retention data and bring all of that into one big set of data that we can help the clients drive business from.
Lifetime value.
The analytics industry, the data industry, is evolving really fast. And I don't think there's a company in the world that is as skilled at working with data as Google. And so I think we can bring a lot of the things that we do internally to our users of Google Analytics to help them make better decisions.
This is the type of data that we should all be looking at soon. Lifetime value. It's based on the same principles of web analytics data. It's based on principles like segmentation. So I can look at a good customer and an okay customer, okay? Where would I get that data? Well, from my customer system. So let's say I'm a hotel chain. I might look at a period of 2 or 3 years, right? Because maybe people don't travel every month, maybe they just travel once a month. But if I'm selling maybe an inexpensive product, I might segment based on a shorter period of time, like 6 months. And I'd look to see who bought something over that period of time. So if I have 2 years here, I might find that in year 1, a good customer bought a lot of things and they spent $280, whereas an okay customer only spent about $100. And the same with the year 2, they spend, again, about $280, okay? Whereas, again, an okay customer, just about $100. So total revenue for those 2 types of customers, $560 versus $200, right? My margin, my profit over the lifetime of that customer for 2 years, over double for the good customer versus just only $20 for the okay customer, right? And now if I look at what I'm spending, my acquisition cost to get a good customer, it's more. I'm spending more to get a good customer than I am to get an okay customer, but over the lifetime, I'm making more money off of that customer, okay? So what do I want to do? I want to find out, where do these customers come from? How do I connect with them? Is it through AdWords? Is it through email marketing? Is it through Twitter? Okay? These are the types of things that we need to start doing, okay? But this is hard in a web analytics tool. This is where we need to start to move to other places and start to think about merging data, okay? Now, I don't want you all to start banging your head on the table and worry, okay? This is where we're moving as an industry. This is where we're going. Because you're going to want to identify those core groups of people that make you money and really work to service them and not service everyone.
Multi-channel.
We want to move beyond the last click and start doing what we call multi-channel analysis, right? And Google has a series of reports called the multi-channel funnels. And there's a lot of really great information that tells us about our marketing and how it influences people and where each of our marketing activities falls within the purchase funnel or the purchase path. Okay? This is one of my favorite reports. It's the channels report in the multi-channel funnel section. And so here we have the different sources of traffic to our website. Google groups these for us by default. And my favorite thing about it is this metric here on the side. Okay? This simple number, right, it starts at 0 and it goes up from there. If the number is close to 0, it means that that marketing channel, okay, is at the bottom of the funnel. It means that it gets a lot of people to buy things. If that number is around 1.5 or higher, it means that it's at the top of the funnel. It means it spreads our brand. It spreads our message. Okay? So now we can understand what marketing activities are upper funnel and which are lower funnel. And if I can identify a lot of lower funnel keywords, right, things that drive a lot of conversions, simply by evaluating this number, then maybe I can spend a little bit more on those keywords, or maybe I optimize for those keywords a little bit more. Okay? Or if I'm looking at a list of social media campaigns, I can figure out which social media activities that I performed drive more awareness, which drive more revenue. Maybe I can optimize some of the activities that drive revenue by changing the way I talk or connecting with new groups of people. So this is really where we're moving in terms of campaign analysis, is looking at the complete life of our marketing and how it influences purchases.
Building a platform.
Traditionally, analytics has always been a black box by vendors. No vendor really describes how their product calculates data. And what we're really trying to do is build a platform for analytics. And the first part is making the black box transparent to show how the product works, and then giving you more access to being able to set and configure the product. And then you could do things where you can send, only events. You can use the model to model that visitor interaction kind of things that we were looking at earlier.
Source of truth.
I started at Urchin Software and we got acquired in 2005. I used to work with all our largest clients, helping them understand how to use data. And now I work with our developers and helping them how they can integrate their products with Google Analytics. Today what I want to talk a little bit about is how Google Analytics models user behavior, how our collection works, how our processing works. I started maybe a year ago trying to answer a very simple question, which is for a report, how did the data actually get into the report? Because I was confused about what data I was looking at. And it took me a long time to kind of uncover how this actually works. So This is the first presentation I've actually done publicly talking about how it works. And this is kind of a preview of a bunch of resources and documentation that we're going to start to help people understand how our product works. It's kind of a black box today, and we're going to make it transparent so people know exactly what our product does with data. The piece of tracking code sends data to analytics, and that data gets sent into what we call our data model. And so this data model is the way that we represent how people interact with content. And it's really important to understand the data model because that is really the source of truth of all the data that the reports are generated from the product.
Privacy.
Anytime we talk about logged in experience, we talk about people wanting to identify themselves. And every time people identify themselves, we always have to be careful of privacy. So I think over the 2012, there's going to be a lot of things happening around privacy to make it clear of what people are being able to track and what happens when you decide that you do want to share information about how that data gets used about you. So I think just in the industry, there's going to be more information about how data is used about individuals. In the past, it's been a little bit difficult to really understand what's going on, and I think it'll only get clearer in 2012.
Iles Vadas from Google, from Google Budapest. So my question would be, well, there's a lot of legislation going on regarding cookies and whatnot, and if people want to opt out or opt in, but the most intuitive way of opting out is basically using fragmented devices. So I use my work computer, I use my home computer, I use my iPad, I use my phone, etc. This definitely makes the whole data set totally fragmented, and Nick mentioned that login experience would be able to solve this whole thing, but most of the web analytics tools have privacy policies that explicitly forbid tracking logged in users as one user and not aggregate. So what do you think was the future here?
Fragmented data is only a problem when you try to answer a question like how many individual people do I have using my website, application, Facebook, etc. These really big questions. And I don't know that that's really a very good question. So on the one hand, I don't necessarily think that we need individually identified data to be able to answer questions like, is it hard to buy the widget? Have you ever been on a website and it's really, really, really hard to buy something? Or you're trying to book travel and it's very difficult to book travel because the website is hard to use and you give up. You don't need to identify each customer individually to be able to look at that experience, measure it, and be able to go to somebody and say, hey, we have a problem here. I had a client where we discovered for them, they had 1,000 people that should have completed booking using iPads that did not. Because the last page of the booking process where you put your money in, you put your credit card in, didn't work on an iPad. That's a very expensive problem for them. We don't need to track people individually to answer that question. So the privacy debate, the debate of individual user tracking, I think is somewhat of a moot point when we look at that. Now, questions like how many individual people do we have as customers or potential customers, the executives always want to know that. And I'm not saying that you can't ask that question. It is just difficult to answer it. If there would be a way to identify users across platform based on signed in, so if somebody registers for your site, here's what I want, is if somebody registers for your site, your user agreement should say if you sign in to use our services, then we're going to have some amount of measurement. And then you need to build a capability to identify that user in a way that isn't putting personal information into the system. So I don't need to know your name, but I would like to know that there is a unique person behind some numerical ID.
Tackle this business model.
So we do have a problem, and nobody's brought up the problem. Do you know what the problem is? Privacy, right? There's a problem. And it's actually going to be a problem on May 26th. Like, we can actually put our finger on the date. So starting on May 26th, we have some folks, anyone here from the UK? No one from the UK, but I know there's some folks from France and various parts of Scandinavia. Starting on May 26th, businesses in the UK that have a website need to get authorization from website visitors to set what we call a cookie on their website, to be tracked. So we're going to start asking people if they will let us track them. And what if those people say no? What do we do then? Do we track them anyways and just not tell them? Screw you. We're going to track you anyways. But the government's getting involved, right? And from my experience, governments don't really understand the work that we do in measurement, right? They don't understand that we're not tracking individuals, right? I'm not tracking you. I'm not tracking you. I'm tracking aggregated data. So governments are kind of stupid, and the problem is it messes up our data, right? So like Caleb was saying, right? We're going to start to have lots of crappy data. So on May 26th, we might, in certain parts of the world, start to see really bad data. And then what does that do for all these awesome efforts that we want to have, right? With Facebook and social and mobile. So while there's a lot of opportunity, I think things are going to be okay. I think it's going to be a lot of educational effort on our part to convince this, right? And so are we going to start to see the spread of more and more constricting privacy requirements, starting in Europe and then potentially moving overseas, that will impact our ability to really tackle this data-driven, data beats opinion type of business model.
In the EU.
In the EU, I think we're going the wrong way. I think it's a classical example of people that don't know what they're doing, doing the wrong thing, if I speak frankly. I also think it's a really good example of people doing something to stop something that will have absolutely almost no effect, because, as Justin said, the big companies are just doing it in a different way. They will still get the data, will still have all that data, but just from the back end with no cookies. So the real question is, as a private person, am I okay with sharing my data in exchange for using pretty sophisticated systems for free that gives me offers that are targeted to me and will give me a better deal on what I want? And I think so far that deal is good. I get something in exchange for my data. Remember, people forget that PII is not only my email address and my phone number. It's actually also my behavioral data, my pattern again, which can be mined to find correlations that would fit what other people that look like me would do. And again, I'm sharing that data in exchange for using a system. So stopping cookies will not stop that part, and therefore it's crazy.
I think what we're seeing is that governments are talking privacy, not understanding the effects of their legislation fully, and they're just going with it anyway. So I know in the US, for some of the restrictive efforts, there's been a lot of organization by Amazon, Google, and the big internet players, and they've actually pushed those pieces of law back and have had a lot of success. But I do think that the business community needs to organize and educate the governments and helping them know this is what we do. You know, data-driven marketing is not new. It started in the 1960s and it's continuing. I think really it's just, we need to educate governments that we're giving people choices, right? You've always been able to opt out of tracking. We're giving people those choices. We need to tell the governments, look, someone is not tracked as an individual. Even if they were, they can still get out of this. So it's a lot of education.
How does this work?
It amazes me that I think there's just a general naivety about how the technology works. If you walk down the street and ask the average person, what do you think about cookies? They're browser cookies. They're going to think that they're really bad things that could infect their computer with a virus and fill up their hard drive with space. Seriously. And so cookies have taken the brunt of this because there were some really bad people 10, 15 years ago that did some bad things with cookies, and cookies have gotten this bad reputation from it. And that still haunts us today. And it shocks me that nobody has really cleared the air. And it's not, I don't think, even so much a problem with the industry. It's the consumers. Consumers want free stuff online. They want to give away nothing. And it's kind of the same debate of ad-free browsing on a newspaper website. You don't want to pay a subscription to the newspaper, but you still want to read it. But you don't want advertising. How does this work? And so there's a level, I think, of just across the board. People have to catch up with the reality that you're not going to get free lunch forever. And we as a society have to struggle through that. The technology has to struggle through that. The vendors have to struggle through that. The legislators have to struggle through that. I think it's going to be really messy and really turbulent for the next few years as this gets worked out. Hopefully we'll come out the other side at a better place, and people won't go around the back door with sneakier ways to do things people don't want, and the population, the public, will become more educated.
Just one note. Actually, in the EU, I just think as a fact, it's actually not cookies that are being made obscure. It's the intent of collecting the data. It doesn't matter what vessel you use. It's still illegal unless, even if you find another way to do it without using cookies. So it's going one step further than just the actual browser cookie.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Completely drives me crazy. I find it fascinating that the people who shout loudest about online privacy are the same people who go into Foursquare and tell the entire world where they are, and I just really want to go to their house and rob it because they've just told me that they're not home. But on the EU side, obviously, it's a little bit strange, and when we're dealing with a global product, so we have the challenges of trying to deal with individual countries treating privacy differently. So what's private in one country is not private in another. In Germany, we report IP address at the visit level in YWA, which in Germany is illegal, so we don't track it there. We just collect it for the period of the session and then throw it away.
This is really fun for me to be able to come to Superweek. Never been to Hungary before, beautiful country, and it's been great to be able to be here.